2025 was significant globally, talking about fire outbreaks. From the wildfires of Europe to the Mediterranean and the rage of the inferno at California, USA, it was unprecedented and a monumental destruction. Africa and indeed Nigeria was not left out of the rage, with records that call to question emergency response in the country. With the effect on lives and livelihood, it is necessary to know what went wrong even after years of firefighting in the country. This raises questions. Was it negligence on the side of victims or inadequacy of firefighting facilities and the technique to calm infernos, or perhaps manpower? This edition of Dateline 360 takes us back to 2025 as we recall to examine the causes of the incidents that occurred across the country to minimize and, if possible, prevent reoccurrence. I am Omotola Mojola. Thanks for joining us. Fire outbreaks almost appear like a yearly occurrence in Lagos. Someone will say it is so in other states. The Lagos experience, however, is often massive, and that said without making light of the impact in other places. The devastating fire that engulfed the Great Nigeria Insurance House building and 6 other buildings on Martin Street and adjoining areas in Balogun Market makes the Lagos experience more worrisome. The incident exposed challenges being faced by emergency responders and the need to upgrade their capacity to respond swiftly to mitigate disasters. Joel Bopola has been following developments about the unfortunate occurrence and reports that businesses in the affected areas are yet to pick up.
It usually starts small before spiraling out of control. And this same scenario played out in the case of the fire that engulfed the 25-story Great Nigerian Insurance House building on Martin Street, Marina. The fire, which started from the 4th floor, was caused by unsafe use of generators, and it promptly escalated to other floors, later spreading to adjoining buildings. Men of the Lagos State Fire and Rescue Service, deployed at the initial stage, faced an uphill task, putting out the fire, as the situation required more sophisticated equipment to reach other floors, which was worsened by accessibility constraints.
The way the goods were being arranged, the firemen couldn't go inside the building to fight fire as they want to do. Recently, we started to have a fire marshal in all story building. Any story building from 5 floors upward, they should have fire marshal. The work of the fire marshal is to carry firefighting operation at initial stage and also to alert firemen on time. We will continue to do that.
The impact of the fire is still visible, with many victims losing their means of livelihood, and their hope of bouncing back is now hanging in the balance.
I have no market from China. I just package this for my shop. Everything, nothing.
Our hope is lost. It's only God that is my hope now.
Apart from destruction of property worth billions of naira, the incident claimed 8 lives, including 3 brothers, Kasmir, Steve and Collins Omatu, who have been buried in Ihiala local government area of Anambra State. The solution to these teething problems, which also reared its ugly head at the computer village in Ikeja, many traders say lies in strengthening emergency response to achieve disaster risk reduction.
To start with, there's supposed to be enough fire extinguishers in the market. In every floor, every shop, as a matter of fact, is supposed to have fire extinguisher. If there were to be a fire extinguisher on ground, it can just easily be extinguished.
While the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu promised compensation to mitigate the monumental losses, he also discouraged improper storage of combustible materials, which usually escalates fire.
In the last couple of years, this same building has had fire incident on 1 or 2 occasions before. This particular building has been converted into a storage warehousing facility. It's not being used as a proper office accommodation. Fire in December, January, February is very critical. The weather will help. The weather will help push it, faster. So people need to be careful.
The affected areas in Balogun Market have been cordoned off for public safety, since the buildings, especially the GNI house, which is in a precarious state, is still standing, and traders can only trade on small portions. thus slowing down economic activities.
That really be affecting because even my customers, they really can't get customers now because some people that doesn't have their number. I find it so difficult to locate their shops.
The thing now is more difficult even to people to walk around or to sell. So make them try to bring the building down.
The impact of the incident is still visible and normalcy will only return when the affected buildings have been successfully demolished. With 9 cases of fire outbreaks recorded in Lagos in the last 30 days, emergency responders have been on their toes. But many times, gaining access to the troubled area has always been a thorny issue due to congestion and problems with architectural designs of such buildings. Experts are advocating a more proactive approach to fire prevention rather than relying on a reactive approach. For Dateline 360, Joel Ukbola.
We hope that more will be done to ensure that such devastation is averted, and that goes even for traders and managers of such facilities. From Lagos, southwest Nigeria, we move up north to Sokoto, where fire razed Buzaye Mechanic Garage and the latest at Sokoto Old Market in 2025. A disturbing pattern that threatens economic stability within the state. These outbreaks also exposed gaps in fire prevention, emergency preparedness, and the effectiveness of local response mechanism in the state. Lawali Sali Usabon Brine examines why these markets remain fire-prone and highlights the urgent preventive measures needed to protect traders.
Frequent fire outbreaks in Sokoto, particularly at the city's business nerve centers, have left the business community facing an uncertainty future. A recent devastating inferno at the Sokoto Old Market ravaged traders' business, leaving many without a means of livelihood. The blaze destroyed properties and plunged families into hardship with minimal resources to restart. Victims are struggling to make ends meet, and their defendants are bearing the brunt of the crisis. Several traders blamed their losses on limited access for fire service personnel and the unfortunate presence of looters at the scene. Counting their losses, victims explain that the outbreak has crippled their businesses, their primary source of survival, and appeal to the government, philanthropists, and corporate organizations for assistance.
Yanzu lokacin da gobar ta samu mutane suna shokowa kamar agaji za su yi sai su zo muna hidda kaya daga shago bayan wadancan sun kone kuma barayi suna saci saura wallahi ya kora muka tashi muka je muka duba gaba ɗaya kayan mu an sace su mun yi hasarori na miliyoyin kuɗi akalla ni na hasara ta kaya sun kai miliyan 10 wani abu insha Allah kuma cikin haka nan muna cikin dai yanayi na rayuwa muna roƙon gwamnati da ta jiha da ta tarayya ta ɗauko ta sa muna hannu ta kawo muna ɗauki.
The Sokoto State Fire Service stated that government has provided adequate fighting equipment and continues to educate the public and business community on preventive measures to minimize potential losses.
Governor Ahmed Ali provide firefighting equipment, he repair and maintain all our vehicles.
The Federal Fire Service emphasized that proper planning and investment in fire prevention remain critical. Noted that multiple sensitization campaigns have been conducted to help avoid both property loss and at times loss of life.
Most of the time we are seeing the fire incident as a sudden incident, but in reality it is the reflection of gap in planning, investment, enforcement, and the compliance by the government, by the stakeholders, as well as the masses.
Business associations in Sokoto acknowledged the efforts of the authorities and explained that they are complementing these initiatives by sensitizing their members on fire prevention, reinforcing the government's and other relevant bodies' efforts.
There was a committee set up by the Sokoto state government. They are visiting different unions and associations to sensitize them on measures of prevention of fires. They visited this place and they sensitized us and they told us what to do and what not to do. Whenever we are going, we can totally switch off the light.
Kowace kungiya ta sana'a mun ɗauki su ba da mutum 3 ko 4 wanda ke za su sa idanu yankin su akan wannan. To ta haka da mun ka bi shi kowane wuri ƙauye da birni to kaga Allah su an samu idanu ko ina.
To protect or minimize occurrence of fire outbreak, it requires collective effort from all stakeholders. Lawali Salu Birni, reporting for Dateline 360.
To ensure fire safety in buildings in the country, there are codes for building with specifications depending on facility, either residential or commercial, and all instituted with emergency plans. In spite of this, compliance to fire safety appears a challenge. Next, Justin Bemoyi looks at the enforcement of building codes and how it aids effectiveness of emergency response mechanism.
Fire safety is a fundamental requirement in modern construction. Nigeria's National Building Code outlines clear fire prevention measures, including safe electrical installations, fire exits, alarms, evacuation routes, and firefighting equipment in both public and private buildings. The code also requires that buildings be designed, supervised and certified by qualified professionals and not occupied without approval from relevant authorities. Provisions aimed at reducing structural failures and limiting fire risks. In regulating engineering practice, the Council for the Regulation of Engineering in Nigeria, COREN, is empowered by law to oversee engineering works nationwide and ensure compliance with approved standards and codes of practice. This includes monitoring critical engineering components such as electrical systems, which are central to fire prevention. Despite these regulations, enforcement remains inconsistent. Electrical faults remain among the leading causes of fire outbreaks, often linked to substandard wiring, overloaded circuits, poor maintenance, and the use of unqualified artisans, all practices contrary to existing safety standards. The National Building Code further mandates the use of fire-resistant materials, clearly marked escape routes, and adequate fire suppression systems, particularly in public buildings and high occupancy spaces. However, inspections and compliance checks vary across states, with uneven adoption and enforcement of the code. Human behavior also contributes significantly to fire incidents. Unattended cooking, careless smoking, unsafe handling of gas cylinders, and improper storage of flammable materials continue to trigger avoidable fires, underscoring the need for sustained public safety education. During the dry season, indiscriminate bush burning and deliberate arson heighten the risk of fires spreading into residential areas. Safety guidelines emphasize stricter enforcement of anti-burning regulations, community vigilance, and early response measures to contain outbreaks. As Nigeria's cities continue to expand, safety experts warn that without consistent enforcement of building regulations, proper supervision during construction, and regular inspection of electrical systems, fire outbreaks will remain a recurring national challenge. Until building safety rules are enforced consistently and developers follow approved standards, fire outbreaks will continue to threaten lives and property across Nigeria. Preventing the next tragedy is less about making new laws and more about enforcing the ones already in place.
We take on another specific, challenges to emergency response away from the emergency scene. Kama questions emergency response from communication and dispatch of equipment, healthcare support, and public cooperation.
Fire outbreak remain one of the most frequent and destructive emergencies across Nigeria. But when fire occurs, how prepared is the nation's emergency response system? How fast do fighters arrive and how effective is coordination among response agencies. Nigeria operates emergency communication through the 112 and the 122 emergency dial centers, designed to provide rapid response to fire outbreaks and other disasters. However, response efficiency varies. High call volumes, limited manpower, and coordination challenge between call centers and fire stations often delay dispatch, especially in urban areas. The speed of response in any fire emergency begins with effective communication and coordination.
So the time of call is very important, prompt, that determines our prompt response. Then the type of call. That is it running call? Is it telephone call? Also, we can also notice fire outbreak or emergency through the media, television, radio, and so on. We can have this.
Beyond communication, the condition of firefighting equipment remains a major concern. Many fire service vehicles are old, inefficient in number, or poorly maintained, limiting their ability to combat complex fire.
In the estate where I live in, there was actually a fire outbreak, and it took quite a while. Like, the damage had already been done before they were there, and of course they always have the excuse of no water, no this, no that. So there's no good structure in place. That's what I'll say.
Response of the fire service during fire outbreak is very poor. This may be due to maybe their unavailability of resources, I don't know.
When we are on the road, fire service is supposed to be given a right of way. But in Nigeria today, you see motorists even struggling with emergency responders on the road, even trying to overtake, block and so on the road, the fire service, the fire responders. So we don't have people don't comply with rules and regulations when they are using the road. The motorists don't comply with rules and regulations. That is giving right of way to fire service.
Fact is that they must be equipped. If they are not equipped, how can they be able to render the services? Yeah, the fact is that for the personnel, they need to be trained, and the equipment need to be given to them by the government.
If the government can equip them very well, it will help the country.
Let the people who are working there be serious and not less concerned about, after all, it's not their building or their property. So Nigeria, sometimes that's how Nigerians work. It's not my father's property, not my father's work. But if there are serious people who will be serious to do that work, to be sure that they quench the fire when the fire is burning, and especially to have a signal.
Fire response does not end with putting out the flames. The health sector plays a critical role in saving lives. Fire outbreaks may be sudden, but their impact can be reduced. Faster response teams, functional equipment, public cooperation, and effective collaboration among agencies remain critical. Improving emergency response is not just government responsibility, it is a collective duty. From Dateline 360, I am Kama.
In Oka, Anambra State, Jane Francis Obi reports that inadequacies in firefighting techniques and facilities have greatly affected effective fire management. The report.
Fire incidents constitute emergency situations that require prompt and effective response strategies. To improve fire prevention and response capabilities, it is essential to have well-trained firefighting personnel and emergency responders, operational fire service equipment, and access to advanced technology and modern firefighting tactics. Fire emergencies in Anambra State are usually characterized by issues such as malfunctioning vehicles, lack of functional tools, insufficient water supply, among others. Although progress has been made, people say there is need for further improvement, particularly in leveraging technological advancements to enhance response times and prevent fire from escalating.
Recently, it has improved than what we knew before, but they are not yet there. But firefighting is about information. They can even collaborate with journalists who travel, who go everywhere.
Going with maybe health personnel is an option that they should not wish away at all. But even at that, they should have collaborations with such health personnel, such that even if they don't go with them, there should be another backup vehicle that can remove these people immediately and take them to certain places where they can be taken care of. While you fight the fire, you also fight those dealing with the trauma that is caused by the fire.
Supposed to be ready and available at all times. Most especially, they know that their work is an emergency something. I believe they should be able to have their water, chemical, everything ready. Once they get a call, they at least, if the distance between where the incident is happening and their office is like, let's say, 5 to 10 kilometers away, they should be there between that period they got a call.
So if they have less workers or they have less mechanic attending to their car and the vehicles and every other thing, it will affect the work efficiency.
The head of the Anambra State Fire Service, Mr. Chiketa, stated that the state government is prioritizing fire safety through the procurement of firefighting equipment and the implementation of community-based training programs on basic firefighting techniques and fire safety awareness. He also identified areas for improvement, including the installation of power hydrant systems in strategic locations, collaboration with relevant agencies, and continuous updates on modern firefighting techniques.
Whenever there is fire incidents, we mostly rely on cost because we have not developed to the extent of having modern way of informing firefighters. Issue of water has been scarcity of water has been a thing of the past. We have water in our stations, in our trucks. Now, whenever there is an incident, of course, you know that when the truck moves out, sometimes they develop faults. And when we come in, we have to put it in order because we have the mechanics around.
Incorporating advanced fire dynamics and suppression strategies will significantly contribute to effective fire management and help reduce loss of lives and properties during fire incidents. In Oka, Jen Francis Obi for Dateline 360.
A lot has been seen and a lot said. While we call on constituted authorities to do all that is required to build efficiency in emergency response, it is also necessary for individuals and corporate organizations to put in place measures to prevent fire outbreaks, no matter how little. My name is Omotola Omojola, and on behalf of the production crew, I appreciate your company. Let's do this again next week. God bless Nigeria.